Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston. And in this space, we navigate life together. We ask the hard questions like, what is the truth you haven't told? But most importantly, we grow together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I am your host, Angel. If you're joining me for the first time, hey girl, welcome to the potty. If you are a returning listener, hey girl, hey, welcome back. I'm so excited to finally be kicking off season 4 with you all. And today we're going to be talking about how are you ending 2023? So how do you want to end this year? And I'm not really going to focus on it from like a goal-oriented mindset, but we're going to talk about some stuff, okay? But before we get there, we're doing the question of the day. We're bringing back the question of the day for season 4. So today's question of the day is, what is bringing you joy? Like, what is making you happy? What is something you're looking forward to? What is bringing you joy in this season, or what has brought you joy this year so far? So the thing that has been bringing me joy is having fresh flowers in my bedroom. I love that for me. So I feel like I always say like, oh, I don't care about getting flowers. Like, I'm not a flowers girl. Ciao. I love flowers. I love having roses. I love having just fresh flowers in my bedroom. It's just very like dainty, peaceful, feminine, soft girl era. I love that for me, and I love it here. So you all know the drill. Make sure that you either leave your response in the comment section below, or you can answer on my stories on Instagram at Angel C. Walston. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and jump into the first topic of season 4, which is how are you ending 2023? And let me give you a little bit of backstory, a little context so that you can understand like where this is all coming from. Because this is not my idea. I'm not trying to take any credit for it, but I've literally like shared this with any and everybody who will listen to me. So this came from a sermon called Guard the Deposit by Pastor Nelson Bowen with Engaged Community Church. And I believe this was either their like New Year's Eve service, or I believe actually maybe it was like the first Sunday back. And listening to that sermon challenged and convicted me in a way that was so necessary, but also one that really just helped me to kind of change how I was like viewing things. So I've done a lot of vision boards this year because I was invited to like vision board parties, but I'm typically not the person that makes New Year's resolutions. I'm typically not the person that makes vision boards. And in listening to this sermon, I was like, I need to write some of these things down. Not some of these. I need to write these things down because, baby. So with all of that being said, one of the things that he talked about during this sermon, well, the main thing that he talked about during this sermon was that everyone should have 3 visions for their life for this year. And it is a vision for how you want to end this year spiritually, so where you want to be as far as your faith walk, a vision for your family, and a vision for you personally. And so we're going to go through each one of those. I'm going to give you all some things. I ain't giving you everything, because some stuff just between me and God these days. But I'm going to give you some of the things that I've made on my list that I want to be intentional about this year, that I want to prioritize, and hopefully give you all some ideas and help you to kind of think about like where you want to go from here. So the first thing is, how do you want to end this year spiritually? And when he said that, there were a couple of things that came to mind because listen, this year is personal for me for a lot of reasons. And specifically, I want to strengthen my relationship with God and continue to grow in my faith and in my relationship with him. And as I was thinking about how do I want to end this year spiritually, that was obviously the main thing that's prioritized. But a second thing that was prioritized for me was that I want to unlearn a lot of legalistic things, a lot of unhealthy church culture things that really are not biblical and that are really not of God. And so I'll give you some examples of that. But for me, I've really struggled over, I would say the last year or two, as I've been going through a process of unlearning a lot of things that is church culture, but really is not rooted in God. And as a result of that, so I've mentioned in a previous episode before that I am a rule follower, okay? I am a rule follower to a T for the most part. And that does trickle into my relationship with God. And I felt myself at times dealing with condemnation a lot last year specifically, because it felt like anytime that I messed up, anytime that I sinned, it just felt not catastrophic, but it did feel catastrophic. You know what I mean? And I found myself just feeling like I gotta get it right. I gotta get it right. And listen, that's not a healthy mindset. We know that like while we're here on this earth, we're gonna sin, we're gonna have our struggles, we're gonna have our shortcomings. Obviously, that does not give us permission to be out here just wilding out, rebellious, doing whatever we want to by any means. But condemnation is not of God. Shame is not of God. Guilt is not of God. And for a lot of us, I believe that we have been wrestling and struggling with a lot of different things that have led us down the path of condemnation, guilt, and shame because we feel like we can't make a mistake. We can't get it wrong. And I was listening to, it was actually the Belong Church, their 21-day fast for impact and influence. And I believe her name's Pastor Brittany Morton. I'm saving that clip for another episode that I want to talk about, but I also want to bring it up here. She mentioned that a lot of you have taken the joy out of the journey because you're so afraid to make a mistake. And you have to know like that's okay. And so I share all of that to say that is something that's really important for me, is to bring the joy back into the journey as far as my relationship with God, because it had become very rigid, and I'm still unlearning a lot of things, unlearning a lot of legalistic type of things, unlearning just a lot of things that have really positioned me to not even fully be able to receive God's grace, because I'm so focused on I didn't get it right. And that's exhausting, y'all. Don't nobody want to feel like that all the time. And so that is something that I really want to focus on in regards to my faith, is getting out of this mindset that has been shaped based off of certain things, people's opinions, people's traditions, people's thoughts that really God don't care about. And getting out of this mindset of I can't make a mistake, and being okay with that. So with that, I want to give some examples of things that I'm doing this year, because listen, it's cute to make these lists, y'all. We can make to-do lists all day, every day. However, what are you actually doing to implement and get you to where you actually want to be? So for me, as far as the growing and strengthening my relationship with God aspect, one of the things that I have been doing for a while now that I want to be like even more intentional about continuing is doing devotions on the YouVersion app. So if you're not familiar with the YouVersion app, it's the Bible app, but I have 3 different people right now that I'm doing devotions with. I don't necessarily recommend that because it can be a little bit overwhelming, but my boyfriend and I, we do a devotion together pretty much like once every couple weeks or so. And then me and 2 other friends, we have a devotion that we do together. We try to do one the first week of every month. So it's usually like a 5 or 7 day devotion that we do together. And then I'm also doing a 21-day fast right now devotion with another friend. And the reason why I brought that up is because it is really helpful to do these devotions with someone else, because we always comment on like that last part, and there's a sense of accountability with that. So it's like if you're not commenting on it, then it's like, girl, did you read your devotion? Did you get it done? So I like that accountability. And I also like just being able to see what other people took away from the devotion, what they took away from the scripture. It really is helpful to do it with other people. So that is something I would strongly encourage if you are just kind of trying to start somewhere, you don't know as far as like buying a devotion or where you want to start. I would strongly encourage you to get on the Bible app. There are tons of devotions on there, like literally tons. You can search any kind of topic and you will find a devotion on it. So if for any reason you can't find what you're looking for, you're like, Angel, I don't know where to stop, DM me, email me, leave a comment. I will provide you with several different plans that you can do, because I really do think that is beneficial. And I'm aware that not everyone has community that they can do devotions with. You can do it by yourself, but also I would challenge you to reach out to someone who you may think like they might say yes to this, or even if you don't know, you never know how somebody may really just be looking for what it is that you're trying to do as well. So don't use that as an excuse to not reach out to anybody or to isolate or to not have accountability. Just reach out to somebody and just see what they say. Another thing that I am doing to get to where I want to be at the end of this year spiritually is creating a new routine. And the reason why I bring that up is because one of the things that I'm going through a process of unlearning is the fact that there was a point where I feel like a lot of people were saying, like, you have to spend the first part of your day with God. Like, you need to get up an hour earlier than you would go to work, or like your normal time that you get up, so that you can spend time with God, and you need to give him your first fruits and all of that. And listen, I just feel like that is not everybody's routine. That is not everybody's story, okay? I am in a season right now where that is just not realistic for me. And I struggled with that for a long time. I said in the trailer, I go to work very early. Y'all, my alarm goes off at 3:30 a.m. It is very unrealistic for me to get up an hour earlier at this point, especially when rest is already something that I'm struggling to get as is. It's just not realistic. And I struggled with that because I felt like, oh, my spending time with God first thing in the morning, it has to look like this. If it doesn't look like this, then I'm not going to do it. And it's like, girl, no, we don't have time for that. Like that type of thinking. Let me rephrase that. We ain't got time for that kind of thinking. So my new routine is, my morning routine starts in the afternoon when I get off from work, because this is just not a season for me to be getting up earlier in that capacity. And that doesn't mean that I'm not spending time with God in the morning. It looks differently than it has in years prior. And I know that there are people who are married. I know that there are people who have children, a child, multiples. There's people who work very early as well. And listen, some of y'all just aren't morning people. Like, I'm a morning person. However, my work schedule is beyond what my morning capacity is. But some of y'all just aren't morning people, and you spending time with God, that is more beneficial. It's more effective if you do it before you go to bed. I can't do it before I go to bed because I'm gonna fall asleep. So it's like, you have to know what season you're in, and you also have to know like where you are in your relationship with God and what works for you. We have to stop following other people's convictions. If that's what God told them to do, more power to you. But know your season, know your relationship with God, and understand like you really do have to commit to what works for you in this season. And so that is a part of something that I want to commit to, is creating a new routine, because I kind of given up on that because it wasn't this morning. Child, we ain't got time for that, okay? Another area that I'm prioritizing is redefining what my spending time with God looks like. So listen, y'all. As you mature in your relationship with God, as seasons change, as roles change, as routines change, as work happens, as life happens, things happen, how you used to do something, it may evolve, it may change. And that doesn't make it bad, it doesn't make it wrong. But you have to learn what works for you in this season. But not, let me rephrase that. It's not about just what works for you in this season, but also being obedient to what God is asking of you in this season. So let me clarify that. But I share that because one of the things that I used to do faithfully was journal. I used to write down my prayers. I used to write all of these different things. And I've been trying to force journaling, y'all, for like the last year. And it's not giving what it used to, okay? Like, journaling is just not something that I am committed to in this season. It's not something that I am excited about. Like, I don't enjoy doing it anymore. And y'all, full transparency, I've become a whole geriatric millennial. Life after 30 hits you fast. I had to go to the orthopedic doctor not too long ago because I have carpal tunnel. And I'm like, bruh. I share that because sometimes my hands hurt. So writing for long periods of time, that ain't it in this season, okay? But that doesn't mean that I can't spend time with God because I'm not journaling. And I bring that up because sometimes we have in our head that it has to look a certain way, that it's supposed to be like this, because this is how we've always done it. Be okay with redefining how you spend time with God, redefining what your relationship looks like in the way that it is still obedient to what it is that He's asking of you in this season. So those are some of the things, a few of the things that I am doing to put things into place to help me as I am having a desire to grow in my faith and unlearn some things. And also being in my word more, so reading scripture, praying, being amongst community. And for some of you, I have a church home. I understand that everyone has that. It may be about finding a church home. So finding a place that you have a covering, finding community through a small group, finding different things that help you to have accountability. So think about what are the things that you can put into place now. So when you get to December 31st, 2023, you can look back and say, these things have helped me to grow spiritually. These things have helped me to grow in my relationship with God. All right, moving along. The second thing is have a vision for your family. So listen, I'm not currently married. I do not have any children. So what my vision for my family will look very different for those of you who are actually married and have kids and have technically your own family. So with that in mind, plan accordingly, plan your vision based off of what your life is like. I don't have those things to consider. So how I focused on the vision for my family may be a little bit different than what you had in mind. And that's okay. It's your vision. This is my vision. Okay. So the vision for my family, one of the things that I thought about is what relationships in my family do I want to strengthen or do I want to work on? I don't really have any relationships that I feel like I need to repair per se. Like there aren't fractured relationships within my family, but there are people within my family that I think about like, oh, I could have a closer relationship with them, or I could be more intentional in that relationship. And so that's something that I'm considering as far as having a vision for my family, is just building those bonds and building those connections with people. Another thing that I've been thinking about is, and listen, y'all, this is going to sound a little morbid, I'm aware. However, it's necessary. And that is just coming up with a binder where pretty much all of my important information is in case something were to happen to me. So for example, I have life insurance. God forbid if something were to happen to me today, tomorrow, whenever, the people who would be in charge of taking care of my affairs. I have life insurance, but do they know who my life insurance with? Would they know who to contact? Like, you don't really think about those things. And it's like the last thing you want is to have your family, your loved ones grieving your loss, and they got to figure out all these moving pieces because the information wasn't readily available to them. And so that's something I really want to be intentional about, is just having easy access, all of my important stuff, life insurance, beneficiary information, retirement stuff, like funds. If you need it, this is where you can find it, so that it is set up in a way that it is easy for, God forbid, like I said, if anything were to happen to me, my family doesn't have to, on top of grieving my loss, then also have to figure out all of these different things. I don't want that to be an issue. Going along with that, in considering having a vision for your family, although a difficult and probably a little awkward and hard conversation to have, is to talk to your older family members, or even just other family members, even if they aren't necessarily elderly, about if they have their things in order, because you don't want to be in that position either. So it's just kind of something to think about. Something else that I've been thinking about as far as a vision for my family is that I want to start looking and thinking more about my retirement. So I don't want to have to wait until I'm 67, 69 to retire because I don't have the financial means to do so. Like, I want to be able to retire earlier than that. And when I eventually do have my own family, I want to be able to create a life that isn't just based off of me having to work all the time. So it's just thinking, like, being proactive in the sense of like, how can I start setting myself up in a sense of being proactive for what's to come and not just where I am now. So just kind of thinking ahead. So yes, this is a vision for 2023, but also thinking ahead and just kind of planning for those things. Another thing when you're thinking about the vision for your family is stuff like having a will, have you updated your beneficiaries? Like, thinking about those things. Because some stuff, like, we don't think about until you have to think about it. And most of the time, if it's to the point that you have to think about it, it's probably too late to be thinking about it. So it's just like preparing and positioning yourself to be ahead of the game in a sense. So as I mentioned earlier, like I said, I don't have children. I don't have a child. I'm not married. So as you're thinking about this vision for your family, for those of you who may be married, who may have children, there's probably additional layers, right, that you would consider additional things that you may be thinking of. So just take the time to think about, like, what are the things that I want to put in place for my family? What are the things that would strengthen our family? What are the things that would help our family to be successful, to grow, whatever it might be? For some of you, it might be your family going to therapy together. That's okay. Like, it's not always about building. It's not always about money and accumulating all of this other stuff. Sometimes it's about healing, and that's a part of building as well. Like we talk about a lot as far as building generational wealth, but we also need to talk about creating the next generation to be healthy. So it's just some things to think about. You can take, and obviously, like if you're in a relationship, if you are married, have those conversations with your partner as well, because y'all want to have this vision together. But think about, as far as like for your family, what are the things that you want to do? What are the things that you want to focus on for this year? All right. So last but certainly not least is the vision that you have for yourself personally. And listen, this year is very personal for me. I know that this is a year of transition for me, and significant transition at that. And I want to make sure that I'm positioning myself in the best way as possible to be as prepared for something that I'm unprepared for, to be honest. And I know that's vague, and I'm going to leave it vague for right now. I will eventually share it, but right now I'm not sharing it. So with that, I am really focused on me right now. My personal goals is not about doing mindset coaching. It's not about trying to build anything. It's not about content strategy. It ain't about social media content. My focus really is making sure my mental health is good, making sure that I'm taking care of myself, making sure that I am showing up for myself, making sure that I'm just being intentional about my connections this year. And so for me, when I think about how do I want to end this year personally, like where do I want to be personally at the end of this year, and what do I need to do? What do I need to put in place to get there? For me, therapy is always going to be top 2 and she ain't never number 2, okay? I will always promote therapy. Y'all know this about me by now. If you don't, you better ask somebody. I will always promote therapy. So that is something that I want to continue. And let me also say this for anyone who has been considering therapy. I had to find a new therapist towards the end of last year, like mid last year. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, it was a lot harder than it's probably ever been for me to find a therapist. I tried a couple of them and it was not good, y'all. But the person that I'm with now, I do like her. And that kind of took some time as well, too. So I share that because you might have to go through a few, but you kind of know, give it some time, because it does take time to build a rapport. But you do know when the chemistry's not there. Y'all not vibing. So give it some time, but also know, like, if it's not working, if you don't feel like you're benefiting from it, don't be afraid to move on to the next, okay? Therapy is for you. Get the help that you need. So therapy for sure. I also really want to take care of just my body as a whole when it comes to my physical health, making sure that I'm exercising, which I hate it. I hate it so much, but I'm doing it. Also making sure that I am just being mindful of what I eat. Listen, y'all, your girl's gonna be 35 this year, and I can't eat how I used to. I get a little heartburn these days. I can feel like when I eat red meat, it's a wrap. So I want to be more mindful of like what I'm eating. Also just being more mindful of just like showing up for myself when it comes to my health. So although I hate working out with a passion, like it's the dumbest thing ever, I'm committed to doing a workout group with a couple of friends on Mondays. And I'm committed to working out with my boyfriend once a week. And then I have another day out of the week that I do my own thing as far as working out. So that is something that is helping me towards this vision that I have for where I want to be physically. And then something else that I am really wanting to prioritize personally this year is prioritizing rest. I had a conversation with one of my friends. This was like months ago now I think about it. And I was like, I don't prioritize rest. And I don't like that for me. Like, I'm not okay with that anymore. Like, I have ran rampant. I have went to work on fumes because I was up late. I was working on it. I'm not doing that no more, y'all. I really want to be intentional about prioritizing rest, because I know when I'm well rested, my mood is better. I'm still tired for the most part, but you can feel a difference. I feel better. I'm not as irritated. I'm not easily frustrated. And so I want to prioritize rest this year. Like, it's not even, we might do it. Like, nah, we got to do that. Another thing that I am being intentional about this year is there are specific women that I want to connect with this year. So my friend group as a whole, like, I want to make sure that I continue to grow those friendships, that we continue to grow in our relationships, continue to be there for one another, have that accountability, all of that. That ain't changing. We not on some, I'm trying to find new friends. It's not that. It's more so of, as I am transitioning, as I'm in a season of transition, there are about 2 or 3 women that I really want to be intentional about connecting with, specifically as I'm in this season of transition, and really just kind of just learning from them, honestly, and getting advice. And I know that I will have to reach out to them because I don't even think that they realize that I want this, or that I feel like I need this. So that is something that I do want to be intentional, because that is something that is really important to me as I'm in this space of transition, of just being connected with women who are already in that space and who can help me as I'm getting ready to be in that space. I feel like this is always on my list, but we are going to continue to do this. Pay down debt. I feel like debt has somewhat become normalized, and I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm tired of being in debt. Like, I don't want to continue having be debt free on my to-do list every year. So I really want to commit to not carrying debt forever. Like, that is not the game plan. Student loan debt, credit card debt, no debt. Like, I'm over it. So debt is definitely up there. And then last but certainly not least, so for me, having the type of personality that I do, and being someone who's always kind of going, doing, being, trying to, like, all of this different stuff, it was really important for me to prioritize having a space, a time, a something that is not calculated, in the sense of just having something that brings me joy. Not something I'm trying to create, not something I'm trying to do, not something I have to share with other people, but something that truly just brings me joy and makes me happy. So a part of that is one of the things that I intentionally did at the beginning of, or actually the end of last year. I knew that I was not interested in doing any type of like content stuff. I wasn't interested in doing any type of coaching or anything like that. In 2021, when I wanted to do mindset coaching, content strategy, all of that, y'all, when I say I just followed a ton of coaches, and I followed a lot of people who were big on like content strategy, giving you all of these tips and all that other stuff. And when I decided not to do it, I still have all of these people. I had to unfollow all of them. And it wasn't because they did anything wrong, or their content they were providing was not helpful or anything like that. It was, a part of it felt like I'm seeing something that I abandoned, and that did make me feel embarrassed, to be honest. And it was also a thing of feeling like I'm seeing all of this stuff that further makes me not want to be on social media, that makes me not want to kind of come back to this space. And I don't know, I just felt like, it almost like I felt trapped on my own page, or my own timeline, I guess you would say, because I had all of these different things that was so heavily focused on something that I was really heavily focused on at one point, but that I didn't do. And that's a little disappointing. And it was just one of those things where it was like, Angel, just unfollow them. Like, it's okay if you decide to do this coaching stuff again, they'll be there. You can find them. Like, it's not the end of the world. So I needed to clear out my friend list, because I wanted to follow pages that brought me joy, that made me laugh, that didn't make me think, that helped me in some kind of way for things that I'm focused on right now. And so going back to kind of what I said, because that part got a little bit unrelated, but I needed things that just like bring me joy, things that just make me laugh, things that just make me happy, things that just make me smile. And there are just some pages that I follow on Instagram that, chef's kiss, love them, because every time I see something that they post, I'm like, I love it here. One is, I think her name is Chrissy Allen. Yes, Chrissy Allen. Her page is CSA Punch. She is hilarious. She does like a whole lot of like nostalgia kind of videos, which as a 90s girl, love it. Embracing Black culture. Literally, probably hands down my favorite page that I follow on Instagram. If not my favorite, second to Black people pets. It's just like, you just gotta go and see it for yourself to understand why it is chef's kiss, because I love it there. Another thing, and I don't want y'all to judge me, you can judge your mama, because this is what I like right now, and this is what is, I don't want to say it's bringing me joy, because that feels a little weird to say that, but I have really fallen in love with true crime podcast. And I don't know how I got here, but I am like fully here, and I'm very invested. So one of the podcasts that I listen to is it's called The Dark Side of Love. I cannot remember the name of the girl who hosts it. However, literally my favorite podcast, one of my favorite podcasts that I've been listening to here lately. And she had took a little sabbatical, but baby girl is back on Mondays, and I'm super excited about that. But yeah, I've really gotten into true crime podcasts, and I really enjoy it. And I know how crazy that sounds. I will say what I did learn is that I enjoy the true crime podcast when it's like, we know the outcome. So we know who killed the person. We know they've been arrested. They're in jail, whatever it might be. I can't do these unsolved mysteries. That stresses me out. It messes with my anxiety. There has to be an ending to the story. Like, there has to be, this is a closed case. We found the person who did it. Those are the type of true crime podcasts that I like. Not these unsolved mysteries. I can't do that. So that is pretty much some of the things that I am working on, focused on, as I listened to that sermon and took some of these things away. And also, let me say this. This is not an all-inclusive list of everything that I'm working on in these three categories. Like I said, something just between me and God this season. But I will say, as you are making your list, because I do want to encourage you to make your own list, I want you to just consider, friend, if there's not one thing on your list that makes you go, makes you a little nervous, if there's not at least one thing that makes you a little bit nervous on your list, revisit your list. Because this shouldn't necessarily be like this easy little cookie cutter list that you came up with that's like, oh, I can do this all in 1 week. No, I want you to challenge yourself, and I want you to think about it not just solely from a goal-oriented type of mindset, but also just looking within and thinking about, like, what are the things that I want to heal? What are some things that I want to work through? What are some mindsets that I want to get rid of? What are some things that I want to be stripped of? What are some things that I want to be freed from? What are some things that I've been carrying that I want to finally let go of? Think about those things, and have someone that you can be accountable to, someone or someone's. Me and two of my friends that I shared it with, we're supposed to meet once a month to talk about the things that we have on these lists. How are we working towards them? And if it's 1 month where it's like, I ain't do nothing, it's not a bashing session. It's meant to be like, okay, well, what we need to do to help you get back on track. So find someone to be that for you, hopefully. And just kind of think about what it is that how you can just have that accountability. So this is not just another to-do list or another goals list or vision board or New Year's resolution that ends up being next year's same to-do list, next year's same vision board. Like, we want to actually start implementing and doing things, right? All right, guys. So I hope that you all enjoyed the first episode of season 4. Make your list. Let me know if you make your list. I want to encourage you to do so, just to kind of start getting your mind thinking about these things. And listen, I saw a post. Somebody had said something about we're almost done with the first quarter of 2023. Girl, January is always a trial period, okay? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. So don't focus on, oh, we're almost 3 months in. I didn't do it then. I didn't start the year off right. Fresh start, baby. Okay? Fresh start. So don't get caught up in what hasn't been done up to this point. I get it. We a month and a half in. I get it. I know. January is a trial run, okay? February might be a trial run for some of us too, myself included, and that's okay. If you start March 1st, that's okay. We have to get to a point where we are willing to start somewhere and not use that as an excuse to just never do, to never be, to never become, to never start. You have to start somewhere, and you have to start at some point, and you can do this. You absolutely can do this, okay? So that's all I have for you all. I hope that you enjoyed, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Have a great week.
Thank you so much for tuning into A Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend, and don't forget to download the episode. Lastly, I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel C. Walston and at A Change of Heart podcast. Have an amazing week, and don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.